Hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, Play Fast Football. I was going to do another short video today. I always get some questions from guys asking about practice plans, how we do what we do. So I figured I'd just put up a quick practice plan and a look at early in camp with everybody getting ready to open up. We open up practice on Monday, so a lot of states getting ready to open up soon if they haven't opened up already. So we're going to take a look at our early practice plans. We're talking about early camp days. All right, remember to check out our sponsors. All right, GameStrat is our sideline replay system. There'll be a link in the description box below that will take you to the GameStrat website. All right, JustPlayFB is the digital software company and diagram tool that I use. MAXOne is an app. It streamline your organization, communication, and workouts into one, convenient location. Difference USA is the ultimate striking machine, so you can work on striking and hand placement. Defensive Coordinator 1 is an app created last December. It's going to be an in-game app letting you or allowing you to use live, real in-game data to make adjustments to your game plan. And then Dome Hats is the official hat sponsor of Play Fast Football. Got a chance to go out and do a clinic for second and third graders with a team that the owner of Dome Sports, a flag team that he coaches in a different county that I work in, so it was neat to go out there and coach some young kids and go through skills and drills and fundamentals. So it was a great opportunity and glad to have Dome as one of my business partners. All right, so I think you got to keep in mind one of the things I've always talked about with Play Fast Football and the ideology behind it in general is you do what you need to do to make your program successful. Every coach has their own choices and their own decisions to make. There's not one way to do things. Everybody has a certain way that they like to do things, all right, and that is true for us as well. So we are entering this football season with the first full staff that I have had in my fourth year at the current high school I'm at. All right, I will have 8 to 9, possibly 10 coaches out on the field with me. So we will change how we've done some things, how we're doing things moving forward. We're going to start with a system and a practice plan that we think is going to be effective for us early on, and then we will probably sometime throughout the course of the year, we will probably move into a different approach and a different practice plan depending on what we need on each level, JV and varsity. But one of the first things that we decided is going to be better for us this year is we're going to use our coaches on both sides of the ball, and we are going to keep our JV kids with us the majority of the time with our varsity group, and we are going to practice the entire team together. What that's going to allow me to do is that's going to allow me to get at least 1 to possibly 2 position coaches with every position group, so that when we are working with the JV and the varsity, when the numbers get pretty big, we have 2 guys with each group, so eventually they can kind of split off and one guy can concentrate on the JV skill group or the position group that they're coaching. So if we have 2 guys working with O-line, eventually, all right, as we start moving a little bit forward to where varsity has more installation and more things than JV does, split them up a little bit, and we'll still be working O-line, but one coach will have the JV O-line, one coach will have the varsity O-line. Same thing with the running backs. I will take the quarterbacks all the time and keep the JV and varsity quarterbacks with me. We'll do the same thing with the receivers. We'll have 2 guys, all right, with the receivers, so eventually they can break up. We will have a person coaching our sniffers by themselves and 2 people coaching our tailbacks. So flip around to the other side. We'll have 2 D-line coaches. We'll have a linebacker coach with the O-line coach helping that linebacker coach and eventually maybe taking the JV linebackers. We'll have 2 coaches working at safeties, all right, and then we'll have a coach working with corners, and then eventually I can move around if we need to break up some position groups down the road. If I need to take a position group with JV kids or whatever it may be, I can take any of those 4 defensive position groups and let the other coach focus on just the varsity group, and I can take the JV group. So with the full staff now for the first time, it's going to be exciting. Didn't put together the whole full staff until late in the summer, so it affected how we did some things in the summer. But moving forward with the full staff, it's going to be interesting and exciting to see what we can do. Your practice plans, or at least our practice plans for me, are always a living, working document. All right, we don't follow the same thing all the time. We do what we feel like we need to do, the things we need to work on when we need to work on them. So it's always going to be kind of a living document, and it changes all the time. keep in mind that, at least for us, you're working throughout the summer, and depending on what coaches you have there, you're doing a lot of install in the summer. You're throwing 7-on-7. All right, you're doing a lot of work, and if you've done your summer correctly, you've got, leading into practice, you've already got a lot of things installed, and a lot of concepts when you go day one, all right, are, we've already taught a lot of things to our kids, and we expect our kids to have a lot of information so that when we start on day one, it may not be a typical day one type practice. So if you had less work over the summer, or if you're at a program where maybe you're not allowed to do as many things over the summer, or you don't see your kids as much over the summer, then your day one plan might be a little bit different. Okay, all right, so for us, all right, we spent this last week, all right, we spent 3 of the days conditioning and installing and going over all the things we want in on JV and varsity for kind of day one, day two, all right, so that we could have a practice plan that was a little bit more involved than just a typical day one, all right, practice plan. And then we only lifted 1 day this past week because we concentrated on some conditioning stuff and some installs, so we only lifted 1 day this past week. All right, so for us on day one, obviously we'll always start with a dynamic warm-up, all right? We don't static stretch. We don't stretch in lines when we warm up at the beginning. We start with a dynamic warm-up, and then we always run our kids either 20s or 40s so that the first drill that we or the first part of the practice plan that we progress into, they're a little bit winded, so they have to think, and makes it a little bit more game-like as far as coming out of flex and going into whatever the drill may be. So for us early on, all right, after the dynamic warm-up, we'll go right into offensive indie with varsity and JV. Everybody is working on the offensive side of the ball, all right? We'll then break up into a routes on air period and an inside run game period. Keep in mind the first 2 days are shorts and helmets only. The next 3 days are shells only, and we cannot have body-on-body contact for the first 5 days where we are at. So every drill that we do that has any type of blocking involved has to be done with the hand shield. Any tackling drills we do have to be done with the hand shield. There is no body-on-body contact. So when we're talking about our inside run game, what we're really doing is we're trying to work against probably a 6-man box with our 2-back looks, or maybe some of our 1-back read game looks, trying to work against a 6-man box, and we're really focused on getting steps and assignment correct, because with the hand shields, a lot of the time, you're working on hand placement, but the hand shields kind of move. It's hard to double team and climb. So really early on, what we're looking for is we're looking for assignments. All right, we want to be correct on our assignments. We're looking at steps. We're looking to make sure if we have double teams or combos, we're working to the right guys. If our center is declaring a point in one of our schemes, we're making we're trying to make sure that the center understands who the point is and who's working with the center to get to that point. All right, so with the hand shields, when the defense has the hand shields and the offense is blocking, sometimes those hand shields slip around and you lose your hand placement. You're trying to work on proper strike, proper footwork, but it's tough to do, all right, with the hand shields that we have. I know there's some things out there where guys kind of have body shields that they strap onto their body, and they're a little bit more effective than the hand shield that is held with a forearm, but every program has their own equipment and things that they have to do. So with us, with hand shields, the 6 in the box have hand shields, 5 linemen and the fullback are blocking hand shields, quarterback and running backs are working on steps and meshes and reads, and then we're working on day one, we're working on the slight differences in our inside runs that we might have. So if we're working on our veer game, we're working on our veer game as a replay, we're working on our veer game as a split flow or a kick play, and then we're working on our veer play as an insert or an ISO scheme. So that's what we're working on during that inside run game period. Routes on air, our quarterbacks and our receivers will go and work on the quick game concepts that we need installed at day one. We've been working on a lot of them all summer. The varsity has, the JV doesn't have as much in, but this is where we'll try and catch the JV up and have our 4 quick game concepts in, all right? If we didn't have any time over the summer to do that work, we wouldn't install 4 quick game concepts day one, but because we have spring ball that leads into the summer, we feel like we should have with our varsity, we should have all our quick game concepts in. So when we're throwing routes on air day one, there'll be no drop back for us, no sprint out for us, no play action pass, nothing else. We'll be working on quick game only, all right? Obviously, there'll be a water break intermittent somewhere in that schedule. We have about 3 of them planned in early on, especially in the state of Florida. We'll have 3 water breaks. We're practicing in the morning only. We don't do 2-a-days. For me, I try to keep our guys as fresh and our legs as fresh as possible. We've been working. We had spring ball. We've been working all summer. We should be ahead of the curve with a lot of things. I don't think there's a need to do the old-fashioned 2-a-days. I know a lot of people still do it. I don't have anything negative to say about it. As far as, people that choose to do it and how they choose to do it, there is nothing wrong with it. I choose to go mornings only when it's not as hot as it could possibly be in Florida. And I choose to go mornings only so our guys have some fresh legs when the season comes. I feel like we've done enough work in the spring and the summer that mornings only is good enough for us. I want to keep my coaches fresh. Teachers go back to work in 2 weeks. I don't want my coaches burned out working 15-hour, 16-hour days, the first 5 days of camp. I feel like we have enough in. We've worked hard over the summer. I want fresh legs. I want fresh minds, so we don't go 2 days. All right, so we'll have a water break. Coming out of the water break, we'll then go to an RPO period and an O-line pass period. So we'll take our running backs and our quarterbacks and our skills, and we'll work on our 2-receiver or 3-receiver side RPO game and our single-receiver RPO game. We'll work on reads for the quarterback. We'll work on meshes with the tailback. We'll work on the routes that we need to the single side and to the 2-receiver side, because we are a heavy RPO team. So RPOs and not only is a big part of our offense, it's a big part of our passing game. So it's something that we've got to stress and emphasize and make sure that they understand who we're reading, what the single side RPO combinations are, what the 2-receiver side RPO combinations are, and then any 3-receiver RPO combinations. All right, day one, we won't get into any 3-receiver stuff. It'll be single side, 2-receiver side RPO stuff. So that'll be a split period. Then we'll come together and we'll have an offensive team. Again, the offensive team period is more or less communication, signals, blocking, hand shields. We probably won't even work against a secondary in the team period. It'll probably be an 8-man box, 6-man box, 8-man front. All right, however you want to look at it. Six players in between the tackles, 2 overhangs somewhere. That gives us the ability to run RPOs and read. We'll put hand shields on the overhangs so that if we block them, we don't have body-on-body contact. But we probably won't even put a secondary out there, because if we did, then we would have to put hand shields on the secondary, and then when you go to throw the ball, they start throwing hand shields around and doing some different things. So we probably won't, in our team segment, we probably won't even work against a secondary. We'll work against a 6-man box, 8-man front. The only time I'll throw secondary guys in there is I may throw them in there just to give us an access look to where if I want the quarterback to take a pre-snap access throw and it's a loaded box, I might throw it, or I might even act as the DB out there so that I give the quarterback the coverage so he knows, him and the receiver on the access side know what route we're going to run, all right, because that's an important part of what we do on offense. So that would be the only time we would mix in possibly a secondary look when we're working on offense. Just because with hand shields and no body-on-body contact, I'd like to avoid any nonsense or anything, that might deter the practice. So it's more important that our linemen block who they need to block. We get the perimeter blocked. We know who we're reading in RPOs. So 6-man box, 8-man front is good enough for us. We'll break and go water, and then we'll flip and we'll go to defense. All right, we'll do a smaller portion of a defensive practice. We'll flip and we'll go to defensive end. And I'll have 2 guys doing D-line Indy, and I'll have at least 1 linebacker coach, and my O-line coach probably helping him. I'll have 2 guys doing safeties, and then I'll have at least 1 to possibly 2 guys at corner, or I'll go over and maybe help out the corners. What I'd like to do the first couple weeks or first week or 2 of practice on defense is I'd like to not have a position, and I'd like to walk around to the different position groups and make sure they're touching on some of the things that I want them to touch on, because now I can, as a head coach / defensive coordinator, I can see everything that's going on and give my 2 cents on what I think we should be doing, drills we should be doing, if there's any technique that needs to be cleaned up. But what I really want to do is I want to let those guys work, and I want to let those position guys work and learn and grow on their own without me running any drills or doing anything. I want them to go on their own, and then I'll tell them, hey, we may need to do this, hey, I would do that, all right? But I really don't want to get involved in too many of those drills if I don't have to, because that, now that I have a full staff, and I'm thankful I have a full staff, I want those guys to get on their feet and run, all right? And I don't want to handcuff them too much with what I think we need to do. I'll help where needed. I'll give my opinion where needed, but I'm really interested to sit back and watch these guys coach. It's been the first time that I haven't had to coach a defensive position, so it's going to be really interesting to sit back and walk around and be more of a head coach and kind of watch these guys coach. It's going to be exciting for me. All right, then we're going to break it up, our front 6 in the stack and our back end guys. Our front 6 are going to work run fits against bags. Again, can't really work block destruction because you're working against a bag. It's more block reaction, making sure we have fits right. If we're going to gap exchange, if we have any movements on, making sure we move to the right gap. All right, so early on in practice when you're working on hand shields, there's not a lot of block destruction. The bags, the offensive linemen are now holding the bags. They step. We need to see the blocks. Is it a down block, a base block, a pass set, a pull? We need to see those things, get in the right place for our run fits. but it won't be a ton of block destruction because that bag goes all over the place. So we'll be working block destruction in Indy, but you won't be able to get a good feel of run fits and block destruction until you actually can go body on body, which for us will be the following Monday. All right, so then we'll break them up for water, all right, and then we'll go to a defensive team, and a defensive team period is more or less a formation recognition type deal. We'll put some receivers out there and throw the ball, but again, there's no body-on-body contact, so we got to make sure that if there are DBs and receivers, we got to make plays on the ball. We got to be able to break through to make plays on the ball without having contact. If we put any receivers in the run game, they're going to have a hand shield, so we got to be kind of cognizant of what we're doing, how we're practicing, the things we're trying to do. So really the defensive team period early on is more or less a formation recognition period, and you're going to be working on your run fits and the back ends of your coverages, like when we're doing the back end of our 2-read palms or our 3-by-1 adjustments or any of our man stuff. You got to kind of work that in small group sessions and in individual sessions until you actually can get body-on-body contact, and then that's where you can get into more of your team settings and full scout looks and things of that nature. So early on for us, our defensive team becomes more of a formation rec. They will be running some plays, and the fullback and the lineman and any slot receivers, or if we're working tight end sets, they'll all have a hand shield. And it'll be more block recognition, fits, where we should be, drops in the pass game, recognizing pass sets, but it won't be a lot of block destruction and won't be a lot of any of the tackling we do. Day 2 and day 3, we'll get into individual tackling drills because we want to, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, before we put the pads on next week, we want about 3 or 4 days to work on the fundamentals of tackling. We've done a lot of, over the summer, we've done some individual tackling deals where we've worked on closing the distance, come to balance, near foot, near shoulder, but you want to still, while you can use hand shields and bags and different things, you want to be doing some tackling drills so that when you go live the following week in the limited contact periods that you have, you've taught tackling, you've taught near foot, near shoulder, you've taught if you're using a gator roll or a hawk tackle progression, or if you're using the 5 fights, whatever it is that you're using, you want to make sure in that tackling system you've taught those things before you fully go to tackle. So for us, that'll be day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. 3 of those 4 days, there'll be some tackling drills incorporated in there, and we've done some tackling drills over the summer in a limited capacity, obviously, without having any pads on. And then probably day 3, 4, 5, somewhere around there, starting Wednesday, we'll start doing special teams. I want our coaches to get a better feel of our kids on the football field. We've looked at them in the summer. We know who our varsity kids are. Our JV kids we know, but we don't really know what they're going to do on the field in a helmet and in shoulder pads. So we're not going to start doing any special team stuff until probably Wednesday or Thursday of week 1 when we know who our bodies are. So then we can come in on probably Tuesday after our Tuesday practice and sit down as a staff, and look at the bodies and say, okay, if we're going to do a punt team, who are the bodies on varsity, who are the bodies on JV? If we're going to do kickoff, who are the bodies on varsity, who are the bodies on JV? Kick return, field goal. So now we got a better feel as to who those bodies are. I would love to start doing special teams day 1 because I think special teams are extremely important. All right, but for us, I don't think we have a good enough feel yet for our kids in football, in a helmet, and then eventually in shoulder pads, and how they're going to move with other people around. We've only seen them, especially the JV kids, we've only seen them doing movement drills over the summer. So I want to find out a little bit more about who the better football players are when we actually start practicing more football deals when we're going with full practices instead of summer workouts. So we won't do special teams until we probably day 3, day 4, day 5, and then we will always do special teams pretty much every day after that point because I think it's really important. So for us, that's how we'll start early in camp. That's what we'll do day 1, and then we'll progress from there to day 2, day 3, and then every day the practice plan will fluctuate, change. It's a living document. What we need to do, what we need to touch on, what we need to move to, what can we install, what do we got to go back to, are we good to move forward or should we review? So day 2, 3, 4, 5, those practice plans won't be made until we figure out what the heck's going on day 1. All right, so I hope that kind of helps you guys with what you do. Every program is different. You've got to practice your own way. You got to practice how you feel best. This is what we're going to do this year, and then we're going to change as we feel needed. All right, I don't think there is a thing as a set stone or set in stone practice plan. There's some really good ideas. There's some really good templates, but I don't think you have to follow anybody verbatim. I think you can do what you need based on your staff, your kids, your program, the work you've done in the summer leading up. So every coach knows kind of where they are in their program, where their program is. So I think as a staff or as a head coach or coordinators, I think you kind of make up your own practice plan, and you know what you're doing, you know what your kids need. So I would trust that your practice plans are going to be just fine. All right, keep in mind the first Play Fast Football Clinic is going to come up in January 24th, 25th, 26th, 2020. All right, so that's about 6 months from now. The website's going to be up and running real soon. We'll have the registration information, vendor registration information, hotel, the embassy suites, the on-site hotel information that you're going to want to try and book rooms there if you can. We got a great deal on the rate. They have Embassy Suites has 2-hour happy hours every day, made to order breakfast. So when you consider where you're going to stay for a clinic, you got to take those things in mind or keep them in consideration, because if you book on site at the Embassy Suites and you look at some other local sites that are cheaper, keep in mind you're getting made to order breakfast and a 2-hour happy hour every night at the Embassy Suites, but you also get a social provided by us on Friday night with a local company that sponsors that, and a lunch provided by us on Saturday with a local company that's going to sponsor that. So when you sit down to look at a clinic experience based on other clinics that you've gone to, all right, you are going to get a social provided by us, a lunch provided by us, a 2-hour, if you stay at the Embassy Suites, 2-hour happy hour each day you stay, and a made-to-order breakfast each day you stay. So as a guy that's been doing this for 22 years and going to clinics and speaking at clinics, I think you got to factor all those things in when you make a decision if you're going to come to the clinic with where you're going to stay, because I think when it comes down to a price point, you're going to find out that getting if you stay at the Embassy Suites, getting 2 breakfasts is going to be worth your while. 2-hour happy hour each day is worth your while. Then the social we provide and the lunch we provide. All right, we're going to try and put it all together so that it is worth the most bang for your buck. And sometime in the near future, we're going to start releasing 2 speakers at a time. We've got about 8 or 9 of the 10 speakers booked already, all right, confirmed with us. And then we also have 1 or 2 guys confirmed on a head coaches panel that we're going to do. 4 head coaches are going to do a 1-hour session in a panel-like setting, asking questions on different aspects within a program. So got about 11 of the 14 names that we want booked, and I am extremely excited about the names that we have. We've got some state championship coaches. We've got some guys from this area. We've got some guys from another huge high school football area. All right, we've got 2 guys from that market coming in, so I'm excited about that. So when it all gets ready to launch and ready to go and the website's up, make sure you check that out, because I think it's going to be a pretty cool deal. And I'm really excited that from 6 years ago to today, PlayFast is now not only a YouTube site, but PlayFast is now becoming a clinic as well. So it's going to be exciting times. As always, I appreciate you guys. All right, click subscribe button, click the notification so you know when we put videos out. Remember, you won't play well until you play fast. See you next time.